Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the University City Public Library. To say that we are thrilled with the turnout tonight would be an understatement, I think. Thank you all for coming out in the heat. My name is Kathleen Gallagher, and I'm the head of adult services at the University City Public Library. And before we say anything else, a little housekeeping. The restrooms are out that way, and then on your left. We do still have at least things to drink in the back if you're hot and need something to drink. So tonight's program, tonight's panel of local educators is part of UCity Library's adult summer reading program, which we call the Big Book Challenge. This year we are reading both Charles Dickens' David Copperfield and Dr. C. Nicole Mason's Born Wright. It's okay if you haven't read that. You don't need to have read it to be here tonight. Both books deal with, in very different ways, children facing and overcoming extreme adversity. We've invited these local educators this evening to discuss the impact of poverty and other forms of adversity on learning. I need to tell you that tonight's program is supported by the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Missouri State Library, and the Missouri Humanities Council. But it wouldn't have been possible all the same without the generosity of these four panelists who are giving up their precious summertime for us. So we thank them all. Tonight's moderators are recent UCity High School grads. We have Kayana Wims. She attends Alabama A&M University. We have Sloan Marion, who is a student at SIU Carbondale. I'm going to have Sloan and Kayana take it from here.
Okay, I'm Kayana. To get us started, we have a broad question. The thesis of Born Wright is that poverty itself is the ultimate barrier to escaping poverty. What is your reaction to this statement as an educator? That's for all of you.
Question up there, yeah.
I guess I'll start off with.
That sounds good.
Having grown up poor and having been superintendent of one of the poorest schools in the state, this year I'm celebrating my 60th anniversary of high school. Many of the youngsters I grew up with have done well. They didn't know they were poor until they read the newspaper. I think that's important. I think youngsters have to feel hope, and they have to be in schools with a vision, and they have to be surrounded by administrators and teachers with vision. If you don't see going to the top as a possibility, it won't happen. And so I think poverty can be a detriment if it keeps you from having a home to live in, keeps you from getting adequate health care, keeps you from having decent clothing, and you're afraid to come to school. But once you arrive at school, it's up to the school to help you fulfill your dream. I have some other things I could say, but I don't want to take up all the time.
Well, I'd like to continue that thought. Poverty is, I have a small voice. Can you all hear me now? Thank you. I got that cue. Poverty is complex, to say the very least, because there's so many different systems that play into this outcome of poverty. And just as Dr. Wright said a moment ago, if you have a family that doesn't have access to health care, if they don't have adequate housing, if they don't have employment, if there's issues with law enforcement and the justice system, and it's a domino effect that can have an impact on the success of a family. And you can have a family that values education, but if you have external factors that are pressing on families, it makes it very challenging on the other end for schools. However, as Dr. Wright said, and I completely agree, that doesn't mean that it is hopeless. Because I know at Maplewood-Richmond Heights, we have been very deliberate in closing the opportunity gap and creating access points for students to achieve, because you have to look at those opportunities that they don't have and what can we do as a school system And we can't change everything, but there are some things that we can control in how we accept and love and nurture our students so they all can be successful. So I completely agree with what you said. We have to be realistic about the systems, the broader systems that our nation has that aren't always there for the success of folks that are struggling. I mean, let's be completely real about that. Being real then helps guide what schools can do to help the success of students. Having hope and encouraging students to be hopeful is the foundation of all of it, believing in your students.
So I'll chime in. Can you hear me okay? We were contemplating moving the mic around. I was going to use I'll use the mic. So poverty is a cycle, right? And we clearly understand that. And I think that one of the pieces that we need to stop doing is trying to dissect poverty. I think that we're making it much more complicated than it is. It is about children not having food, not having adequate health care, not having adequate housing, not having appropriate schooling. It's pretty simplistic. So if we understand what the root causes are, what are we doing to fix the problem? We have to appropriately provide resources and supports for students and their families. They cannot fix it themselves. If they could, trust me, no one wants to live in poverty consistently. It doesn't feel good. If you've ever been poor, you know exactly what it means to have a hunger pain, to not have lights on, to not know if you're ever going to go to the dentist because you have a toothache, to not be able to see the board because you can't go to the optometrist to have an eye exam. That's real. And if people wanted to just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, trust me, they would. So we need to look at the systems around the supports, and poverty is there. We know exactly what it is, we know what it looks like, we know how it impacts education. So knowing that, what are we doing as a collective to equalize the resources that we're providing for all students? That's what the conversation really needs to be about. Access, opportunity, and exposure, particularly for the students, for the children that have the least.
Can you hear me? I kind of have a very vocal voice, so I want to make sure, do I need the microphone, and can you hear me?
Yes, you need it.
I was going to say, when I looked at this question, I had to look at this question from not only an educator's point of view, but also from a personal point of view, especially being an African-American female. Just to give you a little background on myself, I grew up in North St. Louis. You're familiar with Highway 70, Safeway, Joe's Liquor Store. That was my environment that I grew up in. When I read this book, I can relate to a lot of the scenarios that were presented in this story in terms of welfare being a kind of the generational norm. When you grow up, you see people in your neighborhood who are dependent on social systems to survive. Okay, it became to the point where my family was the only family on our block where anyone even graduated from high school. It became the norm. I was teased, my brothers were teased, my sister were teased because we continuously went to school. So when I read this book, it made me really look at what the other panelists said about the external and the internal implications of poverty. Of course, you have the external factors of poverty. You look at having food to eat, paying bills, having the necessities in life. But then as educators, we also have to look at the internal implications of poverty. These are students who are coming to school and they're reasoning and trying to figure out, who are they? Are they a product of their environment? There's the neighborhood where you may see drug dealers. And I'm not saying all neighborhoods have drug dealers because we know they don't. But I grew up in a neighborhood where there were drug dealers, drive-by shootings, and everything else. Okay? And even as an educator now in my classroom, I have students who they can't even, when I tell them stories about that, because I see them glamorize what they see on TV so much. When they play these video games, Grand Theft Auto, and they relate to that so much. And they don't really have a basis for where that stems from when you actually have endured and lived through that as a child. So when I have conversations with my students about that, they can't even picture me present day in their face, the educator, living in a scenario like that. So I agree with the panelists on the board that we have to look at external factors of poverty, and we also have to look at the internal implications of how this impacts a child. I'll give you a personal experience that I've had. I have a 12-year-old son he's in middle school, he's in 7th grade. And he noticed the difference between when we're in North St. Louis and we go to a Walgreens and you have things like body wash and deodorant that's locked up behind glass. But when we're home in South St. Louis, it's out in the open. And so I had to have a dialogue with my son as to why that is. And so he even made a comment to me, which was kind of disheartening at that point when he told me, he said, well, Mom, doesn't it make you feel like you're a thief? When you walk in the store and they have everything locked up, doesn't it kind of tell you you're a thief? And I had to have that conversation with my son. So I think as an educational community, regardless of if you're a superintendent to the custodians in the building, we all as a community had to step forward and address the issue of poverty. It takes more than the school system. It takes more than the community. It takes it on the federal and state level as well. And I think that the author of this book, she pointed that out so poignantly in her writing, that it takes more than just, I'm going to blame it on the school system. The schools, the teachers are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. The superintendents are not leading the way that they're supposed to be leading. We have many hats that we wear on a daily basis, and it continues to grow. And for the families who are trying, like Sharonica said, no one wants to be poor. And for most of us growing up, if you're in my age range, I'm in my 40s, I'm 43. I'm proud to be 43. Some people may not say that out loud, but I'm proud to be 43 because I'm proud because I lost.
I'm older than you.
But I say that because no one wants to be poor, but for those of us that grown up in what we consider to be those middle class families, and even if you were struggling, you never knew you were poor because you made do with what you had. And that's what a lot of these kids are doing. They're making do with what they have the best that they can. But that's not to state that when they come to school, they don't see the difference. And some of the differences that they're seeing are not the differences that we really want them focusing on. Like who has on the latest shoes, who has on the latest outfit. That's irrelevant. We don't care about that. We want to get these kids to focus and go where they need to go for their own lives so they know that poverty does not define them. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. And I need to insert an apology before we go forward. I left off my sheet where I introduced the panelists. You kind of introduced yourselves. We have Dr. John Wright, author, former superintendent, as you said, and kind of a local academic hero, guru, I don't know. We have Dr. Sharonica Hardin-Bartley, superintendent of the U City School District. We have Karen Hall, superintendent of Maplewood-Richmond Heights, and we have Rhonda Stovall, who was the Monsanto 2017 Outstanding Science Teacher of the Year. So I apologize for the bad sequence there.
Now, to get into some specifics, for the superintendent specifically, what measures do your districts take to combat inequalities through poverty, and what can the communities do to support these measures? Dr. Hardin-Bartley, if you would like to start.
So the measures that we take in University City is first acknowledging that all of our young people are brilliant with a tremendous amount of human potential, and they have the capacity to achieve whatever they aspire to be. So it's efficacy, first and foremost, and making sure that our mindsets match our actions. So when we say we firmly believe that all children can achieve at high levels, our actions, our policies, our procedures, our processes back that up. The next piece of that is we also have to understand that equity does not necessarily mean the same. So we have to differentiate our resources, differentiate our supports to make sure that we're meeting our students where they are. Our approach is called Learning Reimagined. It is not a real rocket scientist kind of method, but it really is about best practices and really understanding that we have to educate our students in a very different way. We have to understand how their social-emotional needs impact their learning. We have to understand how some of the pieces that we're talking about here today impact their learning, such as poverty, such as hunger, such as healthcare. And not that we're trying to be the experts in all of those areas, but we're trying to be the convener of the resources so that there's no barrier to a child having a quality education. And we're relentless about it. We call it being status quo disruptors. The system that we have right now does not work. And that's one of the challenges and one of the pieces that kind of frustrates me the most. I'm very impatient when it comes to educating our children because we don't have time to keep replicating practices that simply do not work. So we're thinking out of the box. We're forging partnerships with external partners. We are challenging policies and processes that simply don't work for children. We're working with families, working to educate them more, going into their homes, not in a judgmental way, but in a helpful and supportive way. Again, leveraging our student voice piece, making sure that our students understand their brilliance and that their circumstances does not define their destiny and where they're going. And we have to do it collectively with our community. So we reach out to our community. We are transparent in our approach. We identify the things that we're doing well, but we also are very comfortable saying that we need help. It truly takes a village. The school system cannot carry the weight of this issue on their backs. That's why it has failed. So we have to open our doors, we have to partner in innovative ways, we have to challenge all the naysayers who are saying what we're not doing for children, asking them how can they be a part of the solution, but keeping our students front and center, their entire well-being. You cannot educate a child academically if he or she is not well. So that wellness piece is critically important. So it's social, emotional, academic, that holistic piece of working to educate every single child. But the first piece, before you do any of that, you have to fundamentally believe that you can move all children. And that's a challenge sometimes in public education because all folks don't believe that all children can learn at high levels.
I grew up, I had gotten education, I had role models. I had Sam Shepard from Banneker District, one of the poorest districts in St. Louis. And they achieved. In spite of all the things that say you shouldn't achieve, he made national news because the kids did achieve. When I did my apprenticeship, I remember the principal I did my apprenticeship, he had a goal of bringing the school scores up to a certain point in the school. He had a teacher say, I can't do it. He said, take your bags and pack. I'll get somebody else tomorrow. You have to believe where you're going fundamentally. I have Jaime Escalante. I don't know if you ever, Jaime Escalante, poor kids, weren't supposed to make it, achieved in spite of the system, broke all test results, and they thought the kids had cheated. Those are the role models. There are a lot of role models. There are a lot of schools that are achieving. I believe in stealing ideas. I mean, you know, you take what's working and you steal it. You know, steal it. I mean, you know, if the community's not there, the mother sends the best kids they have to school. Don't keep the good ones at home. So you have what they have. They bring you what they have. That's what you have to work with. And I've seen teachers mold kids, the worst kids, and make them the best kids. And I've seen principals do what they say couldn't be done. I had a classmate, the best man in my wedding, at Lexington, at school in the city, Farragut Elementary School. Became one of the top achieving schools. And I look at the young lady who was over at Jennings, had wash and dry for kids, had clothes room. So you take what you have and you make it the best. You can't wait for Superman. You may be the only Superman the kids will see, and you have to make it work. No time for tears. No time for tears.
So inspirational. I'll leave you and go back to work. So ditto, a lot of the work that the other two panelists had mentioned, we're doing that at Maplewood-Richmond Heights. And I don't know how familiar you all are with that community, but almost about 20 years ago, the community and my predecessor locked arms and they said no more. The state was about to take over the school district. There was quite a bit of financial strife. community had lost faith in the schools. And it was a pretty sad situation. But they had decided we're going to transform our space. We believe in our community school, and we're going to turn it around. And I have been blessed to be the next superintendent in line to inherit and stand on the shoulders of my predecessor to ensure educational equity for all students. So we had true systemic things that have been put in place. Of course, collaboration and transparency is critical, and that has been foundational all throughout our time at Maplewood-Richmond Heights. But instructionally, differentiation has been incredibly important. We have something called looping, where our teachers are with students for 2 years. Talking about relationships and believing in students is critical, so that was a foundational piece that we started in our early childhood center, and then also our elementary school, and then teams at the middle school loop with students for 2 years. Then our early childhood center has one of the best preschools in the state, by far. So we made a commitment to early childhood education. And if you haven't had a chance to come by, we welcome you anytime. We have lots of visitors to see our approach to Elio Emilia, which is a program out of Italy. And a lot of our teachers have been there, and they've learned that approach. We have an interesting community. We have this natural diversity there. It's a group where you could have professors, children's, professional people that have their children in the district, and then you have students that are living out of a car. They don't know when their next meal is going to be. All of that in one community. So we wanted to ensure that there were shared experiences, and that's where the equity piece comes in, and it won't always be the same for every student. And so we wanted to create rich experiences for all kids. So wellness is very important. We have gardens at each of our sites. We have chickens at each of our sites. We have at the Early Childhood Center visiting farm friends. All of that is embedded in our curriculum. And the students, we don't assume that they have certain experiences, and if they do have these experiences, they share it with their classmates. We don't take that for granted. And then as we move on, we have rich experiences with museums, and students get to facilitate their learning and develop exhibits. At the middle school level, we have approximately 40% of the learning outside of the school walls, where they're traveling to the Smoky Mountains, and they're going to the ocean, and they have these integrated units of study. And then at the high school, we have an apprenticeship model, where the students are out in the world having exposure to real world jobs and what that work world looks like. And so the community can see our young people as young professionals, potential young professionals. And we want the community to always see how incredible our young people are, and for them to wrap their arms around it. And everything that we've done over the years, we wanted our community to be proud of their neighborhood school, because we cannot do it without our community. And we've been fortunate. This past 2 years, we passed the bond issue, we passed the tax levy, because the community believes in their community school, and we can't do it without our community. So all of these elements that we've put in place support the equity piece. And I could keep going. We have a food pantry. We deliver food to our community members that are in need. We have a home for homeless boys called Joe's Place. It goes on, and we've gone deeper with some of these strategies that we put in place to ensure the success of all kids. And we believe, and the staff, they believe. We hire people that truly believe in this mission to ensure that we close the opportunity gap at Maplewood-Richmond Heights. So it's a core, systemic, institutionalized approach and approaches that we put in place at MRH.
Here's a topic we've been hearing a lot about. Dr. Mason and many others point to the gap in language exposure between preschoolers born into poverty and those from middle and upper class households. She suggests integration of early literacy programs into healthcare delivery systems so that pediatricians and obstetricians can direct new parents to appropriate resources. How do you respond to that suggestion?
I knew they were gonna do this. When I read that and I examined that and I think about now when I take my kids to the pediatrician, even at 10 and 12, when they go for their yearly checkups, they receive a book. And to me, I love the fact that their pediatrician gives them an age-appropriate book. They give them a selection. How old are you? Your books are over here. What grade level are you in? Your books are here. What grade level do you read on? Those books are over here. I like that, but I think when you talk about pediatricians and obstetricians helping out, I think that anyone helping out in the community is an asset. But do I think that it's a solution to the problem? No. Because I've seen parents where you can go to the doctor, you have adults who go to the library, don't check out books. You know, as teachers, you take kids to the library in your school and you have those hesitant kids who don't want a book. So I don't think that's going to change because you have a doctor, whether it's an obstetrician or a pediatrician, that's consistently handing out a book. And I appreciate the fact that that's a part of the process, that's a part of the dialogue that the community has to chip in and help and step up and say, hey, you're a new parent now. This is important for your child to acquire language at this age. So here are some resources that we can give to you. But I think there has to be a conversation about that. I think that parents have to be more proactive. I think the community has to step up and be proactive because we have parents who, like we have mentors for new teachers, we need mentors for parents to even let them know how valuable that is. Because you have some parents, and I'm not even gonna say just teenage parents, you have young adults who don't understand the value of reading to their kids. I mean, I have my 10-year-old son, he is going to the 5th grade, but he tested and he reads on the 8th grade level. And I've been reading to him since he was a baby, and every night, like clockwork, I read to my kids. My 12-year-old, he's in the 7th grade. They tested him, he reads on the 12th grade level. Because I've been reading to him since he was young. And no one, even though I'm an educator, no one had to tell me that. That was something that was intrinsic in me, that I wanted my son to read. So I say that because I don't think just telling pediatricians or obstetricians, hey, when they have a child, trying to push the resources on them. I think it's a part of the solution, but I don't think it's the overall solution.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stovall. Speaking of community, of people in the community stepping in, I have Stephanie Jenkins from our library's Youth Services Department. She's going to just briefly share some of the things that have really gotten rolling at our library for early childhood literacy, as well as libraries around the state.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Jenkins. I work in the youth department over here in our library. And to touch a little bit on this subject, we as a library and a community partner, one of our goals is to reach out to those pediatrician offices and give them the resources of the library. Because like you said, it's easy for them to give out a book. Right. We provide them for books for their offices, and they can give those away if they like. But we also give them brochures on the 5 early literacy skills and go over it with them as to how to explain how to use those skills. Because we'd like to get those parents in the library so that we can sit down with them and explain to them that it's important to read to your child. It's important to start when the baby is still in the womb. Just walking with that baby in your womb and talking every day, they're hearing your voice. They're listening to your words that you're talking, as a daily basis. So we try to explain that to them so that they can pass that on, but also to get those parents to come to the library because that's where it starts. It starts at home. So that's one of the things that we're doing, and we've been doing that over the past couple of years, visiting different local pediatrician offices, dentists, different preschools, daycare centers, babysitters, to reach out to their parents to get them to come to the library so that we can train them on the 5 early literacy skills. Is everybody in here familiar with the 5 early literacy skills? Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and tell you what we're doing in the library. The 5 early literacy skills starts with talking, which I said it starts in the womb, singing, nursery rhymes, letting your child listen to music, because words are important in songs. They learn from singing, they learn from doing nursery rhymes. Reading to your child on a daily basis. Even though your child's in your womb, you're reading a book to them, they can hear your voice. So when they come out into this world, they recognize your voice, and they start to pick up on those words. Writing is important for the kids to write. They may not know how to write a letter, but just giving them a pencil or a pen, and I mean like those jumbo ones for the dexterity skills, just let them scribble. Because, you know, they think that they see you writing every day, so now they're doing it. And it gives them a start to develop their dexterity skills. Also, playing with your kids. I mean, getting on the floor, get down on their level, and playing with them is really important. Because they watch you every day. What you do, they do. You're a mentor for them. So those are the 5 early literacy skills that we work on every day with most of our parents that come into the library. Now, some of the things that we're doing here at the library to help out, we are partnering with U City Schools. In fact, we had a meeting earlier this year on how to reach out to our middle school, and not just the middle school, but starting with the preschools. I met with Dr. Hardin-Bartley earlier this year about us getting with Julia Goldstein, which is the preschool of U City, and not just Julia Goldstein, but all of our local preschool and daycares, on how to get our parents involved with coming to the library with their kids and learning how to do these 5 literacy skills with them. Because we are finding that as our kids get older, some of them don't know how to read. There are a lot of kids that don't know how to read in middle school, even in high school. They're struggling. So we believe if it starts at birth, they stand a better chance at learning how to read. So some of the things that we are doing, we hold a summer reading program here at the library. Used to be for a 4-year-old and up, 4 to 17. We recently changed that and started from birth to 17. And I know it sounds kind of crazy that birth cannot read a book, but you're reading to your child. So we developed a program where you're reading to your child and you're coming in the summer reading program and reporting what you've read to your child. This is the first year we're doing the birth through 17. And what we're doing is the birth through 3-year-olds are doing the 1,000 books before kindergarten. This is a new program that we started here at the library today. It is a known fact that if you read 1,000 books to your child before they start kindergarten, they're going to hit the ground running when they get in kindergarten. You have a lot of kindergartners that start kindergarten and they're struggling with reading. It's not just, you know, we don't expect them to just read fluently, but they can't even recognize ABC. They can't recognize numbers. So this is a proven program that if you start from day 1 and you read 1,000 books to your child before kindergarten, usually they are really not having a hard time in kindergarten recognizing letters, numbers, and some of them are reading. Some of them are even counting to 50, 100, because they're constantly working with their parents at home. Another thing we offer is Monday through Thursday, from fall to spring, we offer story time. We have in-house story time and we have outreach story time. We are reaching out to the community preschools and daycares, going out doing story time with those local schools. We also have gotten preschool computers through the grant. So we are matching not only book reading, but digital reading at the same time, and letting parents know that it's okay to have computer time and read books on a computer, an iPad, or a preschool computer. But, preschool computer, but it's okay to match those two together as long as you limit the time that they're on the computer, okay? So that's pretty much what I have to say, but yes, we are doing a lot in the community and we welcome the partnership with you guys, okay?
Thank you.
Getting back to our panelists, what roles do the schools play in the arc of a child's development? What are the best learning practices for effective discipline to maximize the students' learning outcomes? Ms. Stovall, if you wanted to start.
When you talk about school discipline playing a role in a child's development. First of all, the child understands and they're prepared to learn for sustained periods of time. And especially as they develop and get older and they have to sit through instructional periods for longer periods of time, they understand the value of that. They also understand the value of cooperation, because you have to have discipline, self-control in order to interact with others and to learn in the process. In terms of best practices, I've been teaching with St. Louis Public Schools. This will be my 18th year this fall. And during those 18 years, I've taught 4th, 5th, 6th, and special education, and now science lab. My way of reaching out to kids is a little bit different from my colleagues, because I'm more of, I have one of my colleagues in the back, he can attest to this. He's back there smiling. They kind of consider me one of the crazy teachers in the building. And because I'm more of a facilitator, I don't believe in being a dictator teacher that stands in front of the classroom and just tells them what I want them to do all day long. I believe that kids are bright, they're brilliant, they have a mind, and they want to participate in the learning process. When we look at Common Core standards and how it pushes us for this higher order thinking, you can't get that when you're standing in front of the classroom and you're telling them what to think and what to say and what the book states, and not to question what they're learning. So for me, I believe in letting the kids have roles in the classroom. When I was in the regular classroom, every kid in my classroom had a job, and those jobs changed every week. We had a system called Boot Out, which sounds funny, but it was a really good system. And every Friday, the kids would they would switch jobs. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I was there just to make sure it was fair. But they would switch out the jobs. Well, you take this job, you take this job. And that ownership made them proud to be in the classrooms, because they had those jobs, because they knew that they could talk to me beyond what school was about. They felt like we were a family. So for me, I can say in my 18 years of teaching going on now that I